You're going to see him in the video get into the driver's seat of that red SUV. Corey and Erica will tell you that no one else was in the car. And you're going to see him pull off on White Rock towards Main Street.
Hey everyone! Thanks for watching. This is Lauren De Laguna. I appreciate you coming on. Today we have a really interesting case that I want to talk about. It's not an interview, which is what we're used to doing, but we're going to look at the Darrell Brooks case today. I'm fortunate enough to have this awesome producer who's going to help me edit this video, so it's going to be my first non-live stream, and I'm very excited for this. So click subscribe. And so Darrell Brooks is a very interesting character. So to start off, giving a background on who he is, Darrell Brooks drove his vehicle through a parade of people, causing the death of 6 people, one of which was a child, and the injury of over 60 people. It's been a horrific event. It happened November 21st of 2021. It was a Christmas parade. It was an early Christmas parade, and there was joy and happiness in the air, and people were trying to get past COVID and into happy spirits, and Darrell Brooks really ruined a lot of lives that day. And I really want to talk about his ridiculous case that has been hard to watch, fascinating to watch, extremely interesting to watch. To start off, Darrell Brooks is representing himself. So in the legal terms, that's called being pro se, or pro per is another word for that. And pro se and pro per are the same exact thing. One is an abbreviation for the other in Latin. However, sovereign citizens think that there is a distinction between the two. And the reason I bring this up is because Darrell Brooks is considered, or attorneys would classify him as, a sovereign citizen. Now, what is a sovereign citizen? Great question. If you ask a sovereign citizen, no one is a sovereign citizen, because according to them, that would be an oxymoron. They believe sovereigns are people who completely disregard the government, have recognized that the government has taken too much of their power, and therefore refuse to acknowledge anything they say. So they say sovereigns have their rights, is what they claim. Sovereigns have the right to freedom of speech because they won't let the government trample on it. They have their rights to the Second Amendment because they'll carry their gun wherever they want, even if it's a gun-free zone, because they have the Second Amendment right and they don't care what the government has to say about it. So that's a sovereign, whereas a citizen is someone who has privileges, someone who cares about what the government thinks. So they'll have a driver's license because they'll want the privilege of driving, or they'll follow the rules because they want to not get arrested so that they can have the continued privileges that the government grants them. They claim that the government never has jurisdiction over them, that there must be a plaintiff in every case. So therefore, if you're being criminally prosecuted and if the state is the one prosecuting, there's no plaintiff, and therefore they should be let free.
Would you call the state of Wisconsin a living, breathing human being?
Asked and answered.
Grounds because I didn't ask that question.
It's not relevant. Sustained. Next question.
It's very relevant. Seems like there's no plaintiff.
Jury will disregard statements made by the attorneys
and
the parties. They are not evidence. Please ask a question.
So to your knowledge, the plaintiff is the state of Wisconsin. Do you see him present in the courtroom today?
Objection, irrelevant.
Sustained.
Can you identify the plaintiff, state of Wisconsin?
Same objection.
Grounds.
Sustained.
Okay, that's not how any of this works. So they read too much into the Constitution. things that aren't there. There's a single book that every sovereign citizen references called American Jurisprudence. And it's just a bunch of nonsense. And they say things such as your birth certificate has a number on the back. This number is an employee number. The United States is simply a corporation. You get forced into slavery as soon as you get a birth certificate by being a forced employee. It's all silly. It all doesn't apply. If you get arrested and you try to use any of these arguments, you will fail every time. And sovereign citizens, they recognize that they fail in court. They just simply believe that the court is wrong and they don't care that they'll fail. So if you are somebody who identifies as a sovereign or a citizen or someone who recognizes these ideals, I just want you to sit and think for a second, how do I want my goals to be accomplished? Because going to jail is not going to accomplish my goals. So my only options are really complete revolution, overthrow the government, or try to work within the government, try to change legislation, try to make America back into the original constitutional foundings that you desire, maybe plus women's rights to vote and without slavery. But, we want the original constitutional rights, and I understand that. But the way to work with that is to work within legislation, not within it. So the reason that I've been talking about sovereign citizens so much is because sovereign citizens do not trust anyone in the bar. So no attorneys, no judge, they're all evil. If you're bar certified, then you're automatically biased, according to sovereign citizens. And Darrell Brooks is a sovereign citizen. And this is relevant because that means that he fired his attorney. He fired his public defender, so now he has to represent himself without an attorney. And it has been a royal mess.
So the state's withdrawn their request to play the audio.
Then why play the video at all then?
I've already made a ruling on that. You're questioning the ruling. You're not asking me to reconsider it based on any legal basis.
There should be a legal reconsideration of it.
Then you need to provide me with the legal basis for that, sir.
So I'm supposed to just come off that off the top of my head?
Yes.
That's ridiculous.
You're representing yourself. It's not ridiculous.
He's tried every argument. He's saying that Darrell Brooks is not his name because in the charging papers, they spell his name in all capital letters, which is a common sovereign citizen argument. It's been very interesting to see all of these arguments put into play, and this judge has been exceedingly patient.
And I merely asked, how did it get there?
Sir, do not interrupt me, or you will forfeit your right to be present in this courtroom.
So you're holding me in contempt? Are you holding me in contempt?
I'm going to make a record.
Are you holding me in contempt?
I'm not answering your questions.
So then you're not holding me in contempt.
Do not interrupt me again, or you will go to the other courtroom.
Under what lawful law?
All right, he's interrupted me once again. We're going to clear the courtroom. He's being disrespectful. I'll make a record once he moves. Unless you can promise me right now that you let me make my record without you interrupting me, sir.
You gonna make your record? You can make your record.
Then please don't interrupt me.
Don't hold me in contempt.
I've never said any such thing.
Removing me from the courtroom, Your Honor, is essentially holding me in contempt.
All right. No, you're forfeiting your right to be present under Illinois versus Allen.
I didn't forfeit anything.
I'm going to start talking, and if he interrupts, then I will close this courtroom, and he will be taken to the next courtroom.
And she's allowed him to try all of these arguments. And the prosecutor has also been really patient and has proven all of these arguments wrong through stare decisis. Now, stare decisis is just meaning the cases that came before. So, or precedent is another way of saying that. So once a judge in the same circuit or in a circuit above, so example, like the Supreme Court is the highest circuit. So what it says rules for all the lower courts. One reason that you wouldn't want to go pro se or pro bono is because you need your attorney to make what's called an objection for you. You need to make proper objections, and then you need to understand why the other side is objecting your question. So what is an objection? Why can people object? Why can one attorney object to the other attorney's questions? Well, there's a lot of reasons. One of them is hearsay. So hearsay is a statement made out of court being used for the truth of the matter said. What does that mean? So that's a lot. So for example, if you're a witness and you have a friend named Jessica, and Jessica tells you, oh, the defendant is a terrible guy, and you're sitting in the witness stand, and the attorney asks you, well, what did Jessica tell you about the defendant? That would be hearsay, because it's not about what you're saying. You're the witness. You can't speak for Jessica. Now, if the attorney wants to call Jessica to the stand, they're more than welcome to. But I'm not allowed to say, Jessica said that the defendant was a horrible, bad guy, because that would be hearsay. That would be using Jessica's statement for the truth of the matter said. Because what if Jessica was joking, right? We don't know. And maybe I misinterpreted her. That's why we need Jessica to be there. That's why hearsay is not good evidence. That's why it's not allowed in court. So if an attorney is asking for questions that is going to prompt hearsay, then the other attorney should object to it and say, hey, objection, hearsay, right? Now, if you don't know what hearsay is, you're going to have a really hard time in court. And this goes for all of the objections. There's other objections too. You could say objection relevance. So things need to be relevant, right? If you're on trial for murder, then it's not relevant to talk about, theft maybe of a witness from 30 years prior. That might not be relevant. Maybe if it was fraud, maybe if it has a tendency to prove that the witness is lying, then it might be relevant. But a lot of things are not relevant to the case. So that would be another objection. There's a lot of objections. You could have objection for lack of foundation. So you're saying that the person did not. So for instance, if you ask a question that has an assumption in it, you need to lay the foundation for whatever you're assuming. So for instance, if I'm a lawyer and I'm asking a witness, why did you slap the defendant, right? I would have to prove first that the witness did in fact slap the defendant before I ask, why did you slap the defendant? I would have to lay the foundation. So you could say objection lacks foundation, objection hearsay, objection calls for speculation, objection. There's plenty of objections, but if you don't know your objections, if you don't have an attorney, a lot of that can be really complicated for you. So you have to know the rules of evidence, and that's just a lot. So Darrell Brooks, he's representing himself. He doesn't know the objections. And so every time the prosecutor asks a question, he just throws it out. It's a Hail Mary every time. Objection, hearsay, objection, lacks foundation, objection, speculation. And it's, he has no idea what he's referring to. It's extremely funny. The prosecution will ask the witness something very direct, like, what color was the car that you saw? And he'll say, objection, hearsay. That's not only is that not a statement for the truth of the matter said, that's not even a statement. That's literally just asking the defendant directly what they saw, or the witness directly what they saw. That is not even close to. So he is calling out the craziest objection. So every time the prosecutor asks a question, or nearly every time the prosecutor asks a question, he's there with some sort of bogus objection. It's so hard to get through anything. Then when he is questioning witnesses, when he's doing his cross-examination, which means so first you get to question your witness, and then the other party gets to do the cross-examination. So when Darrell Brooks is cross-examining these witnesses after the state, and the state will call an objection. So for instance, he'll ask the witness, Well, what did your husband say to you? Well, that's clear hearsay. And so the state will call objection, hearsay. And before the state could finish what they're saying, he'll go, grounds, grounds, grounds. Well, the grounds is the hearsay, right? So they say objection, objection, hearsay, objection calls for speculation, objection lacks foundation, and he will still ask.
Do you recall how many pages long the report was?
Objection, relevance.
Grounds.
Sustained. Not relevant. Please move on.
Grounds.
Do you recall if the report was lengthy?
Objection, relevance.
Grounds.
Sustained. Next question, please.
Grounds for the sustain.
Relevance.
The grounds are literally what they just said. Lacks foundation. Not relevant. Whatever it is, you don't have to ask. And he does it every time. He screams grounds, grounds, grounds. Oh my goodness. You would think that he was like a coffee maniac, just like waiting for grounds or something. Like grounds, more grounds. It's maddening to listen to him. It's just insane. Because he's constantly interrupting people, because he's constantly such a nuisance to the court, he's frequently had to be put in a courtroom right next to the courtroom that his trial is occurring in, just so they can mute him. So they'll have him video conference into court, have him object, and they gave him a little sign that says objection for him to hold up. And on the first day of court, he just like tucked it into his pants. He kept holding it up for so long that his arms got tired that he tucked it into his pants. And he was objecting to everything, like things that you're not even, just like jury instructions, that like basic jury instructions, like don't talk outside of court, don't talk about this case. He was objecting to everything. He was objecting to what the judge said. He was objecting to, it didn't matter. Like, he was objecting to his own name. Yeah, that's his most frequent objection, is his own name. Yeah. So he has absolutely no respect for the court. One time, he ripped off his own shirt. Yeah. He took off his own shirt during court, during trial. Yeah. It's just been, and I couldn't even imagine trying to watch this man who has no empathy, constantly lying, does not care about anyone that he killed, any of their families, and it's so evident. There was a group called the Dancing Grannies, and they were a group of 9 grandmas who were really close friends who would go out dancing. He ran them all over with his car and killed 4 of them. Imagine losing someone who is like your best friend, like those women, those were very close women, and to see him just make such a mockery of it. It's just so interesting that he's just such a sociopath. I've never seen anyone lack empathy the way he does. He just has absolutely no understanding of how another person could feel, and you could tell by the way that he talks to the judge, by the way that he, disrespects the jury, the way that he disrespects the court. You could tell that he really thinks that they are doing him wrong. Like they are bothering him with this whole court proceeding. This is just such a nuisance to him. Like he had so much better things to do other than this stupid court thing that like this stupid state is forcing him to do. It's hard to watch. So, I just want to give a lot of prayers to the family, many families affected by this. if you haven't watched any of the hearings, you can watch some of it. There's people on the witness stand talking about watching their daughter get hit by a car and fly 20 feet in the air, and then picking them up only to see their face gashed in blood and carrying them to the hospital. And then Darrell Brooks has the audacity to nitpick about stupid things like, well, you called me dark skinned. Well, you said I had dreadlocks, but currently my head is shaved, so are you sure I'm the right guy? But anyway, he's disgusting, and lots of prayers for all the people that he's disrespecting. Well, thanks for watching, and I hope you have a great rest of your day and week and whatever. Night.
Thank you, everyone. Please be seated. Statement continue its examination of this witness. I believe we're on Exhibit 117.
Yes, we had 117. Madam Clerk, would you please turn the display back on?